Did you know that how you bundle or frame your pricing can increase your customers' willingness to pay by up to 33%? When I first got started in business a few years ago, I was obsessed with psychology because I understood that the better I understood people, the better my business was going to do. I understood that sales was all about psychology, marketing was all about psychology. And as I've learned and grown, I've learned that there is a lot of psychology behind pricing that ends up coming into play and affecting how well that marketing and how well that sales works. Now, to clarify before I get going too deep here, keep in mind that there are no silver bullets in business. There's no one thing that's going to fix or make up for everything else. Everything in your business needs to work together. So your marketing, your sales, your pricing, your fulfillment, your bundles, everything needs to come together. If it doesn't, none of them are going to make up for something else falling short. But this is one of those little things that you can refine and fine tune that can make a big difference. Before I get into the pieces that I actually want to talk about, because I think they are so much more effective and helpful in terms of the psychology of pricing, like the fact that pricing is about numbers, it's about perceived value and what your price is saying about you, I want to talk just very briefly about some of the psychology-based pricing models that a lot of people have been addressing for the past, 10 years or so. So first and foremost, keep in mind that there is this concept called anchoring. And so anchoring is this idea that whatever the first price someone sees is, that becomes the anchor price for them. That becomes the is everything, is this product, one, is the product worth more or less than the anchor price? Two, is this offer worth more or less than this anchor price that I saw? And that may not be something you can control because that anchor price might end up being something that they saw on someone else's website or from someone else's brand. So keep in mind, whatever the first price they see is, that becomes psychologically the anchoring price for what the market is going to bear for the most part. This is where it is helpful to know, one, what your competition is charging for something similar, or even if there is nothing out there like you, which I get it, I know, we all have something that's completely unique, but there are things that other people will substitute for what you're offering. So knowing what other people could pay for something they deem a reasonable substitute is super helpful. One of the next pieces that gets a lot of attention when it comes to the psychology of pricing is this idea of ending in 99 or 97 rather than ending in a full rounded price. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we talk about what is your price saying about you, but especially if you are talking about something that is under maybe $600 or so, that can be really helpful when you're talking retail pricing. So if you are in a retail store, having pricing that ends in 97, 99, 87, some of those less consistent numbers instead of zeros does tend to do a little bit better in terms of helping people feel easier about throwing things in the cart. So if you are in some variety of retail, pricing things in terms, especially like an actual physical store retail, pricing things with those 97s, 99s, 98s, 87s, whatever, can be a really helpful move to increase the amount of sales you generate. Now, as a side note, anytime you're charging or pricing something that is substantially larger than that, we've reached a point in society where people start to see that as a little bit scammy and inauthentic. So be careful, especially if you're charging like a $10,000 program. Billing that at $999,997 is usually a way to tell people that you're trying to trick them into buying, and they become a lot less open to making that purchase at that point in time. Same thing goes a lot of times when it's online sales. You have to be careful with that because they're going to see the price of the cart before they check out. And if it's markedly higher than they were expecting when they were going through your shop, they may choose not to buy just because it surprised them. The next thing that a lot of people talk about is this idea of using tiers and higher pricing. So a lot of times you'll get to a page, especially for a service, where it will have 3 bundles or 3 package options. So you will have the middle tier, you'll have a really high price, and you'll have a really bare bones option. And this also, again, has been proven to increase the amount of sales, the amount of people who opt in for the middle version. Maybe they can't afford the high end version. They don't really like that the bare bones option doesn't offer them nearly enough, but that middle option feels very doable because they have some frame of reference. And the last little psychology piece that everyone is talking about is this idea of using limited time offers. So having some sort of limitation or some sort of, this is only good through Friday, this is only good through noon, this is good through sellout, whatever, that can move people to take action. One of the most important things that I learned as a sales trainer very early on is that people buy today if you give them a reason to buy today. Now, that said, not everything you sell has to be tied to some variety of a time-limited offer. You can give people a really authentic and compelling reason to buy simply by giving them an emotional call to action. So your, reason to buy doesn't have to be a countdown timer, it can be, and that can be super, super effective, especially again, for smaller price purchases. When there is a limited availability or a limited offer, there are a lot of individuals who will make that buying decision because there's only an hour left, 2 hours left, whatever. Again, if it's smaller, if it's much larger than that, people tend to feel pressure at that point in time. And again, they can actually retract from making that purchase instead of leaning in. But if you are not wanting to do that, countdown type of situation, you can work on giving them an emotional reason to buy, make them feel like they can't live without this product or service in their life. And that is a reason to buy, because if they can't live without it, they're going to want it today. Okay, so let's get beyond the basics of pricing psychology that everyone else is talking about, and let's dig into something that's a little bit more nuanced here. Pricing is about more than just numbers. Pricing is about perceived value. Now, there are two sets of perceived value in any transaction. First and foremost, there is your perceived value. As the individual who is selling the product or the service, you have to make a decision on what you feel what you're offering is worth to someone. That is your perceived value. Now, in order for someone to make a buying decision on the other side, they are also going to have to feel like their perceived value not just matches yours, but they perceive the value you are offering as much higher than the price point that you are offering it at. Now, this means you are going to have individuals who are going to look at what you have to offer. They're not going to think it's worth the price point, and they're not going to buy. There's only so much you can do about that. So stop beating yourself up about it and just focus on the individuals who have the same value sets as you do. Now, as I've talked about in many of my videos at this point, value is not just education-based at this point. Value comes down to a lot of things. People determine that there is value in everything from information to emotion. And in fact, information is no longer the most valuable thing we can offer to individuals, but sparking some kind of emotion is. If you really want to laden and improve the value of whatever you're offering to people, finding ways to increase the emotional weight that it carries is incredibly important. When whatever you're offering has a high emotional value to it, it increases the perceived value over whatever the price point is. So this comes down to telling stories. It comes down to telling stories with your packaging. It comes down to telling stories with your website. It comes down to telling stories with the content that you are creating and putting out there, and making sure that those stories are built to spark emotion. They are built to make people laugh. They are built to make people smile. They are built to make people feel something, because whatever price point you have put into your marketing, you need to make sure they see it as worth more. And one of the easiest ways to do this is increase the emotional weight of that, whatever the product or service is, because it doesn't cost you anything extra to do that. I can increase the emotional weight of whatever I'm offering without adding a penny to my, cost of goods sold. So let's talk briefly about what exactly is your price saying about you, because there is a big difference between, $597, right, with a dollar sign in front of it, and $600 with a dollar sign in front of it, and $600 without a dollar sign in front of it, right? If you think about this, the best analogy I was ever given here is if you think about really high-end restaurants, right? How many times have you gone to a restaurant, and some of y'all may have never gone to these restaurants, but sometimes you go to a restaurant and first of all, sometimes you walk in and it's like the price is right there. Like it is like $14.97 for the chicken fried steak platter, right? And then you go to these other restaurants and there's no numbers anywhere on the menu. And you have no idea what exactly the price is that you're ordering. You're just going to be ordering stuff, right? Which one of these restaurants has a higher end feel? Right. Yeah. The one that has no numbers. There's also the idea of putting one rounded numbers and not having dollar signs on it. So for example, we have a really high-end event at Grow Disrupt called the Growcation. When we put pricing out on that one, it is just strictly $6,000. So 6,000. It is 5,000. I don't think we've ever done 5,000 for Growcation. 9,000 or 9,500. Like we don't do the, the decimal points. We don't do the dollar signs. We keep it very, 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 very simple. It helps it feel classier, which is in line with what the product is. Now, I want to address something very quickly here, and that is that first and foremost, if McDonald's were to suddenly take all of the pricing off their menu, it's not going to make McDonald's feel more high-end. There's only so much you can do with pricing to make up for how the product or service is both presented as well as marketed. Okay. You cannot put a high-end price tag on a pile of poop and expect people are going to go for that. They might, but you're probably not going to get a lot of repeat buyers, and you're probably going to struggle to get buyers as a whole. I've seen so many individuals who have told me, Stephanie, I just need to get 1 or 2 sales this year at this price point and I'll be good. The problem is their product, their service, whatever they were offering, their bundle wasn't at the price point that they were requesting. And so, yeah, they may have only needed 1 or 2 clients in order to make it, but they weren't going to get those clients because no one was going to look at that price point, this offer, and say, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to pay this for it. There was no emotional weight to level it up. The price point was marked as something super exclusive, super expensive. The offer was not. You cannot have a $6,000 price tag and then a $19.99 sales process, right? Think kitschy and slimy and pressure and all of the, your sales process needs to back up the price tag that you have. You cannot have a $6,000 price tag and have $500 marketing behind it. Your marketing needs to back up the price tag that you have. You cannot have a $6,000 price tag and then a $300 product. People are not going to buy at that point in time. Your price is not going to make up for you not having a solid sales process, solid marketing, or solid actual product to deliver on. But it does become one extra thing that helps reinforce really good marketing, really great sales process, and a really well laid out product. I just want to reinforce one final point here. There are a lot of ways to add value to what you are bringing to the table without having to cost you a whole ton of money. There is emotion. There are a lot of things that you can do that bring more to the table than the cost of it. For example, when we were looking at how do we level up the Grow Retreat so that it is worth more to people, but at the same time, it doesn't cost us a crazy amount more to produce, we looked at adding in these reconnect options. They cost, yes, some money to us, but at the same time, the amount of value they bring to the table for our guests is so much higher that they look at it as something extremely, extremely valuable to be added in, and it only costs us so much extra money. Now, this is going to require you to get creative. Finding emotion-based stories to tell is going to require you to get creative. Finding ways to tell those stories in ways that sparks emotion is going to require you to get creative. Because that's the key to great marketing. If you want your marketing to be effective, you want your business to grow, you're gonna have to get creative when it comes to your pricing, your sales process, your marketing, and your bundles, your products, whatever it is that you are bringing to the marketplace. But you know what? You got this.